film version. Well, it's released cinematically in the UK of A Christmas Carol, starring George C. Scott. And so I'm just trying to see if I can turn this down slightly. No, it won't work. And joining me will be Malcolm Mann, who will be here for a moment. I do crave your indulgence for a few seconds because I need to do some quick housekeeping in setting this all up. So if you just bear with me, and let's see how it all goes. But hopefully all will be well. And sign in here and post here. Incidentally, you can take part in this discussion. You can either on the comments on my blog page or my YouTube page. You can you're free to leave comments, and Malcolm and I will happily add them into the discussion. So we'll see how it all goes. I'm hoping that you all pretty much have seen the film, or if not, know enough of the work of George C. Scott, or indeed, I can't presume that I assume you know something of Christmas Carol, and either or both. Any opinions you have, you're more than welcome to join to say something, and we'll see how everything all pans out. And yes, I'm just checking everything now to see. Yes, it is live streamed. I've got that. Yeah. And volumes low down on others. And hopefully all will be well. Yeah. So good. So I'm just checking everything, and hopefully, yes. Good. That is fine. Very fine, Vivsat. And all will be well, yeah. All will be well. And it's now 8 o'clock. So hopefully the clock will strike 8 and we will see the ever-present ghost that is Malcolm Mann. Oh no, he's more than a ghost. That was that sounded unfair and it wasn't meant to be. But yes. All being well. I hope you're all okay. I hope that you, in spite of everything that's going on, you've got a Christmas to look forward to. And if you haven't, I hope this is a welcome interlude amidst the storms of life. And yes, see how it all goes. And Malcolm's entered the waiting room and I'm letting him in now. Here we go. Good evening, Malcolm. How are you?
Good evening. The ghost of YouTube present is here. I heard that.
As soon as I said it, I thought that was sort of meant as a pithy comment, but it might come out badly. You noticed I apologized seconds later.
I chose to ignore that for the sake of the gag.
Oh well.
So, I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. I've just had dinner.
You're good. Good.
Rachel's clearing up, so I'm, even more relaxed. And
Excellent. Thank you to her.
yeah, indeed. I'm still at work this week, but I finish on Thursday, so the new Christmas holiday or part of it.
Yeah.
At least that's something. And yeah, managed to get all the presents done. All the last cards were posted today.
Well done.
Hopefully it's gone through in time. And I've just got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 more presents to wrap.
Right.
And one more card to be hand delivered.
Right.
And hopefully that's done.
So is this actually, in reality, 7 more DVD copies of No Time to Die?
That would be, yeah, I can imagine how that would go down.
Okay.
Everything all right your end?
Everything's good here. I've been labouring under a toothache over the last week,
Oh dear.
but I had antibiotics, and they're starting to win the battle now, so feeling much better. Now I just have to brush my teeth gently, having brushed them raw with Sensodyne, who don't sponsor this podcast, YouTube channel.
No, absolutely. We have no. I do want to haze to add that we do not have sponsorship here.
Yeah, but they are very useful for sore gums, so I'm grateful to them. Absolutely. But yeah, so I'm feeling somewhat better today. I'm very relieved.
Yes.
So yeah, things are good. I was very busy today working, trying to get my work done so that I can take Friday clean off as well. So that's made some good steps. So I'm very happy about that. I was editing a transcript for a podcast on Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember Captain Bob?
Yeah, I do.
His daughter.
Yeah.
So that was learning a lot about the Jeffrey Epstein case there.
Yeah, it's very depressing. I try and avoid it, actually, personally.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Yeah. But it'll soon be done. And then, yeah, just relax for the rest of the week. Look forward to Saturday.
Yes. I don't even think it's that close. I prepare for it, but I find it's that time of year where I think of dates of the month rather than days of the week. Right. I find I'm thinking it's almost starting like I'm thinking today's the 20th rather than today's Monday. Or no,
I see, yeah.
I had to remind myself that today's Monday, I'm going into work. Well, it was a bit of a shock when I realised last night, but
tomorrow's the shortest day of the year.
It is. It is about in this part of the country about 7:45, 4:45.
Yeah.
Morning, we have daylight, but yeah.
It was sunrise this morning was at 3 minutes past 8. So it'll just be the same tomorrow, I imagine.
I imagine so. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. But yeah. So, A Christmas Carol. Have you you haven't seen this version before, have you?
Never have. And to be honest, I don't think I've seen many versions of the book before either. I can't remember having watched any for a long time, if ever.
Yeah.
I've read the book, but yeah, I'm not big on the TV or film versions. So I had to buy the DVD, and it was the first time seeing it.
Interestingly, it was on TV last night. So
oh, really? Was it?
On BBC Three. So
okay, well,
if I knew in advance, if the copy of the Christmas Radio Times, if I got it earlier, I would have said, don't bother getting the DVD. It'll be on television the day before. But
to be honest, I hardly ever watch television nowadays, and I do find it much easier to have the DVD. I can stop if necessary and then continue later on. I suppose if it's on iPlayer, could have done the same. Yeah. But I don't mind having my own hard copy of especially favourite films. And it's good to have a copy of The Christmas Carol or A Christmas Carol.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I didn't mind having my own edition of it.
So what did you what struck you immediately about it? This particular
Immediately, I think some of this, not the sound effects, some of the sound effects were very shrieky, very loud. The music was, well, they wrote, it was not bad music, it was good, but I think somewhat louder than I kind of expected it to be, even more dramatic.
Yeah.
Special effects as well. The film's the early 80s. So yeah, they're going to be more primitive than today's. So they did rather stand out. And I couldn't believe when I looked it up on IMDb that Scrooge, George C. Scott was only in his 50s when he made this film.
Yeah.
I thought he looked much, much older.
He always did he always gave the impression of being older than he actually was.
Right.
Because I mean, he would have been in his 30s when he had a significant role in Doctor Strangelove when he supported Peter Sellers. But you wouldn't be surprised if he was in his 40s.
Right.
He did that. So he was always that little bit older than he was.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But yeah, so I think the music, special effects were the two things that immediately jumped out at me. And then a little further on, George C. Scott's age, but I had to look that up, so it wasn't an immediate thing. How about you?
It was initially, well, I first saw it on television over Christmas, some 33 years ago.
Okay.
That's 3 years ago. It's shown on Christmas Eve on ITV. I think. But I'll just double check. Sorry, I'm just typing away because hang on. There's this wonderful thing called the Radio Times genome, where if you find out anything that was what was in the Radio Times at any point between 1923 and 1999.
Right.
So I don't know.
Search.
So I'm going to do a quick search, but I'm going to do oldest first because that will make it easier. The formula. Let's first broadcast. No. My first broadcast. So hopefully, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Yeah, sorry, I do apologize. So I'm just going to skip along. So let's number. See what that has. 1977, because I've done it in order. So 1980. 81. So let's try number 8. Gosh, this is almost tedious. But basically, I'm wanting to see whether it was on the BBC in the late 80s. But I get the impression, my memory tells me it was ITV. But we shall see. Ooh. Here we are. It's more like it. Australians in stream taps. The formula, Doctor Strangelove, Changeling, last run, bank shot, one ball in a minute, the formula, murders in the room. Oh, no, I can't find it. I think it was an ITV thing. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it did have this kind of feel about it, and I did find that it has an air of realism. I can't put my finger on why or how or whatever that, but it has an air of realism, I find.
In what sense?
Um, well, this is the thing. I can't define it to myself. There's something authentic about that version
Right, right.
that the others don't have. I don't know. I think it might be that they cut down the saccharin. They dramatically cut down the saccharin, and it's a bit more brutal. It's
Um,
nowhere near as brutal as this as the version the BBC did a couple of years ago, which was so horrific. Uh,
right.
but this was fairly brutal.
Um, I have to admit that's not a word I would apply
Well,
to
not
it.
brutal. Not brutal. It's a bit more grim compared to say some of the other versions.
Right. It- it's hard for me to say, in fact, impossible, because
Yeah,
I've probably not seen them.
yeah.
I didn't think it was that hard.
No.
But the problem is, it's of its age.
Mm,
The ghosts, I mean, the final ghost is very horror inspired, Christmas Future.
mm,
The first, beautiful blonde lady, she's never going to be that tough to get on with. Edward Woodward is obviously meant to be very jolly Christmas present.
this is the
Um,
is it, but Edward Woodward's Ghost of Christmas Present. He didn't strike me as that jolly. He struck me as fairly.
I think he, on the whole, I think he was. Then he did switch to being a bit tougher, a bit more in Scrooge's face.
Mm,
And then, of course, the high point of his toughness, as it were, was when he reveals ignorance and want
mm,
underneath him. The film had a dramatic use of makeup. It surely did. The children, child and want, their rags, looking very white,
yeah.
and Bob Cratchit, very unsubtly indicating how ill he is, with awash with makeup,
Mm,
to make him look grey and sallow,
mm,
rather, whereas all the children look fairly normal.
mm,
But I think it veered between, perhaps, yeah, it veered between brutality and more gentleness,
mm.
especially with Edward Woodward or Christmas Present. And then it just went straight out there into horror territory with uh, Christmas Future, Ghost of
Yeah.
the Future, with all the lightning bolts,
Mm.
and you can't see him. It's the figure of death, basically, or the Grim Reaper,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the bony fingers. Um, yeah, the film did make me think I probably should have read the book, because it didn't always stitch together, uh, at least on the first viewing, that well for me.
Mm,
I watched it. I didn't get a proper sense of the development of Scrooge's character, how he went from
mm.
being the selfish uh, guy that he is to, oh, I'm going to change my ways. I think I should have watched the film earlier and then again, once or twice more, to get a proper sense
Yeah.
of the development of his character, because it seemed to happen somewhat quickly
Mm.
towards the end. The most difficult, awkward moment was when he was by his own grave, and I was trying to work out why is he so upset by it? Because it's the future. Everyone dies. The grave's not in particularly bad shape. And I'm sure the answers are in there in the story, but it's the first time I watched it. I've not read the book in a very long time.
Mm.
So I suspect there are things that I missed along the way that
Mm.
would have got me over the line in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, with regards to the grave, I mean, there's that element that you feel that it's over a period of Christmas where it's just died. So I mean, the grave would be fairly new and newly tended. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, his body is sort of laid out in this.
Yeah, he never recognizes it though, which
Is
I was surprised at.
well, he
Thought
doesn't
he
see the
would.
face. And I
He
think
doesn't lift up the sheet because he asks, "Who is it? Who is laying there?"
he says, "I have no power to lift up that sheet. I can't lift it up."
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I think deep down he knows it's him. He's trying to
right,
avoid the possibility it's him until he sees the name on the grave.
right. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah,
Mm,
um, yeah. Definitely a film that would reward repeated viewings,
mm,
just like all good films.
yeah.
You're never going to pick everything up the first time round, especially if it gets a little overwhelming
Mhm.
in whatever way.
What would you say was the best bit about the film?
Oh, it's got to be George C. Scott's
Mm,
Scrooge, definitely. I thought he was brilliant.
mm,
Um, really, really solid in the role. I thought he was great, as Scrooge, and then as Scrooge reformed at the end, he was just as convincing.
mm,
Um, the acting in general was really good.
mm.
Um, Tiny Tim's dad, Bob Cratchit,
Yeah.
sorry, Bob Cratchit,
I thought
was
it's interesting.
well played by
Yeah,
the guy who's in Titanic.
David Warner. I was going to say
Ah,
David Warner usually plays villains.
really? Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
he's
not just
perfect.
in Titanic. I mean, he played what's it? The Supreme Evil in Time Bandits.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, I
He,
think I've seen that.
yeah, he usually plays villains and pretty good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him well from Titanic. Great character.
Yeah,
Um, but he was very good, very convincing here
yeah.
as well. It's one of those films where no character
Mm,
um, lets it down. The only
yeah.
cringy moment in the film is the line, Tiny Tim's line,
Mm.
um, "Merry Christmas and so say we all," or whatever it is he said. And I guess that comes from the book, so we can't blame the film.
God bless us, everyone.
That's the one. Yeah, that is cringy, but
Yeah.
it's Dickens, so gets away with it.
I imagine you like the Blackadder version where he's referred to as Tiny Tom and he's a greedy scrounger rather than.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Tiny Tim's a lovely character. He is Dickens at his most sentimental.
Mm,
Um, I mean, you might as well, he creates such good characters. You might as well accept the odd character that really he goes overboard with.
yeah.
Um, Especially when you've got lovely characters like Fezziwig in there as well. He was good fun. I liked him.
Mm,
And various other, the supporting characters are all good as well. So
yeah.
yeah, I think George C. Scott definitely holds it together wonderfully, like super glue. Um, and yeah, the script is pretty solid
Mm.
throughout. So, but yeah, come back to him.
I did find the bit his acting as Scrooge early, particularly at the start when you're setting up the character, when he's in the counting house, and then when he goes out to the, I think it's the stock exchange, but I'm not sure.
It is, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He cut he the thing I think that's brilliant about George C. Scott in that is that he underplays it, but at the same time he throws out in almost any emotion. You see an occasional flash of temper, but you
yeah,
see a particular coldness about him. You know, when it's like, when you've been really told off by someone who hasn't lost their temper.
yeah.
He's mentioned your
Oh,
deficiencies, and it's,
so you
uh,
froze there.
can you see? Am I? Yeah,
Well, you're back to normal now.
back to normal. It's just flashed on my screen. Your internet connection is unstable. So hold on to your horses, everyone. Um, yeah, I was going to say he comes across as pretty cold in that. I think.
Yeah, very cold.
Mm,
Because that's him at his Scroogiest. Um, yeah, he plays it so well. You're right, by not overdoing it.
Mm.
It's just vile.
Yeah.
The Corn
Well,
Exchange and
it's,
everywhere else. Yeah.
yeah, and
Uh,
they,
it was a lovely touch later on when he's reformed, and Bob Cratchit thinks that he's going to, because he's late and
yes,
he's in trouble, and then I'm doubling your wages. That was really lovely. I like that.
Mm.
A great turnaround. A great turnaround.
In all, thing that gets me is in the novel by Charles Dickens, or the novella, he says we'll discuss your situation over a smoking bishop this afternoon. And I have looked it up, but I keep forgetting what a smoking bishop is.
Dare I ask?
I'm about to look it up again.
More
Because I,
live research.
but smoking bishop. See if Wikipedia has anything. Which, oh, it's a type of mulled wine, punch, or wassail,
Okay.
and it's mentioned in A Christmas Carol. But it's yeah, I can see why it might be called a smoking bishop for smoking it. I mean, mulled wine does have that kind of
Yeah.
taste of.
Old wine is lovely.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty good all around. I suppose there's this sort of Spartan element about the film, but it does knit well together. And as you said, I think George C. Scott did well. What did you think of Frank Finley as Marley's ghost?
I wasn't fond of him, to be
No.
honest. He was okay,
Mm,
but the way they represented him was, but it wasn't cringy,
mm,
but I just felt wasn't hitting the mark for me. There was just something very dated about his character, or the way they showed him.
yeah.
So, I mean, he came, he did his bit, and he left again.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, but not for me memorable in the way that, say, George C. Scott's Scrooge is. I don't. It's just the way that they played him.
Mm,
And like you were saying earlier on, it's something that's um, hard to pin down. Perhaps it was too stiff, too shouty, too obvious.
mm,
Clanking about, sitting down, not enough mystery,
mm.
not enough sense of danger or of the supernatural. But yeah.
It, it's meant to, I get the impression, I think we're too familiar with this story in a way. But I think we're meant to get the impression with Depicts Marley's ghost, especially with the way you gradually see things, from being sort of being dark and alone and seeing the image of his face through the door knocker and everything else leading up to and it's meant, I think Dickens is trying to convey a sense of horror,
Yeah.
a very strong horror, and we're not quite getting it because I don't think it's the fault of the filmmakers in this. I think it's because we're too familiar with it.
Yeah, I wasn't at all impressed by the face on the door knocker.
No.
That's so unsubtle. How do we introduce a character, superimpose his face on the door knocker? I mean, that's, well, it's not sixth form writing, but it's just no subtlety to it.
No.
You might as well have him appear in a calendar or something like that.
Yeah.
Or in a portrait.
Yeah.
At least Harry Potter had them moving about.
Yes.
Yeah, it probably didn't help that special effect is pretty basic, but I wasn't a fan of that. And nowadays, yeah, it's hard because part of the problem is the limitations of special effects in those days. You could probably do it much better now with CGI.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I still wasn't a fan of it. I'm not sure what I would have done otherwise. One thing I think I definitely wouldn't have done is had him open the door. I'd just have him go in there or come through the door. Why would a ghost want to open the door when he can leave the? Why does he need the window open? Actually, for that matter, he's a ghost.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a couple of those decisions I would have done differently. Absolutely. He wasn't the ruin of the film or anything like that, but neither for me was he particularly a strong point of it.
It's fair enough. And are there any other roles or bit? Are there any actually? This point, are there any bits in the film? And not so much the acting, but the way the scenes were written and presented that you thought, I like that.
Do you know? I liked. Well, let's talk first in terms of scenery. I like the sets. I imagine. I don't know what its budget would have been, but I doubt it would have been so big. But they did really well with the budget. I especially liked Scrooge's office, cramped office. Some of the other locations, they were all good, but particularly that one. The presentation of the family, of the Cratchit family, was really nice. Only Tiny Tim's line, "God bless you all," was a bit cringy.
Yeah.
The rest of it could have been cringe, but wasn't. You really, or I really believed in that family being as they were presented, being a happy family despite their reduced circumstances. The family, the homeless family under the bridge, that could have been another cringy moment, especially with the father when he moved away from them, looking doomfully. Oh, I'm going to join the workhouse.
Well, that was played very well, and especially
I liked it. Yeah, it could have gone really badly, that scene. But whoever the actors were, especially the man, they did really well. Both mum and dad.
Edward. And it's also you got that. Sorry to interrupt. It just came to mind. You got that sense in his acting that he's just holding it all together under the surface, just trying to hold it all together.
Yeah, just about.
And it was that
family.
Yeah, and
totally believable as this downtrodden father. Who really wants the best for his family, and he's at the end of his tether. He thinks the workhouse or the poorhouse is going to be the answer.
Yeah,
his wife knows better.
I mean that line I thought encapsulated it all. That sense of desperation, where he says to his daughter, he says, "Your father's not a thief, girl, not yet."
Yeah,
and I can't even deliver that. But I mean, the look of desperate and everything.
It was really well acted. Whoever the guy was, those people were, but he particularly. And you just know, though, that at that point, in fact, probably with most of this film, it's more than just the homeless father speaking. It's more than Bob Cratchit speaking or Scrooge's nephew. Is it Silas? I can't remember his first name.
Fred.
Fred. Okay, thank you. Fred Scrooge.
Fred Hollywell.
Fred Hollywell, thank you. It's not them, or it's more than just them speaking. It's Charles Dickens talking to his audience.
Yes.
Look at this. Pay attention to what's happening here. Trying to use this story, just like, it's a very unsubtle version of Narnia, of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. You can read The Lion and the Witch and not think about Christianity until you hear about the gospel or whatever later on, or someone tells you. But here, Charles Dickens is really drumming it into you. Look at the iniquitous position of the homeless father. Look at how Fred,
the homeless father,
speaking. Pay attention to it, and to Scrooge. He's not holding back there, but he makes it work. It ought to be really condescending, but he makes it all work. That's the brilliant thing, the genius of the story.
The homeless father actually doesn't exist in the book. That was made up by that.
Right. Oh, so that's for the film, right?
It is, but
Oh, that's a great thing then by the director or the writer.
indeed,
They
but
totally got into the spirit of it.
But in the film, sorry, in the book, you do see them visit the poorhouses and the almshouses, and one or two people in the cell, and the ghost Christmas present throws a bit of sprinkle of it from his torch of plenty, so they get a sense of the wonder of Christmas. And you'll see, I mean, they're very briefly mentioned, these things, or seen a group of people living, lighthouse keepers and the boatmen all quietly celebrating their Christmas in their own way.
Sure.
So,
Excellent. Well, yeah, I'm really impressed by the writer, the screenwriter who seen this, because I never have thought that's anything other than Dickens. There. So I guess they found a way to contract or multiple other scenes from the book that they couldn't fit in, or it would have cost too much to show scenes in the poorhouse or the lighthouse. And this was their alternative, and it worked wonderfully well. But it's amazing how Dickens, the film, can make what really ought not to work. Just like the Council of Elrond, it really ought not to work, that chapter, because it's so long and it's just people talking. It's telling, not showing. And as an author, you're supposed to show, not tell. But Tolkien makes it work, and that's one chapter. Dickens makes the whole thing work. The filmmakers make it all work for the screen as well. It's really quite wonderful, and lots of genius involved there. Well, mainly on Dickens's part, I guess, but very well done by the filmmakers. Even when it's cringy, it isn't. It works. I don't begrudge Tiny Tim his big moment there.
Do you have a favourite version of A Christmas Carol?
Not really, because I haven't seen enough of them. So I a few years ago, perhaps 2015, 16 or 17, I saw Simon Callow do the one-man show on stage.
He's done another one for the BBC.
I think that's the only other time I've seen it. I don't remember much about it other than the theatre, and it's Simon Callow, so it was probably brilliant. But I'm not. I've not seen enough to be able to give an answer for that. How about yourself?
I like the Simon Callow version. I will confess to liking the sort of family versions, as in the Robert Zemeckis version, the Muppets Christmas Carol. But
I'd love to see the Muppet version.
But yes, that's quite interesting. Kermit and Miss Piggy are Bob Cratchit and his wife, and what's it, Waldorf and that are Marley and Marley. Stadler Waldorf. I was trying to remember the other one, but so they've got their, and Gonzo's Charles Dickens, the narrator.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
But but I do find A Christmas Carol, the 1984 version, for some reason I've got a particular fondness for, which is why I wanted to do a review of this one. But it's all pretty good. But
great stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very glad I've watched it.
Oh, good.
It will go onto my list, I think, of Christmas-related films to watch every year.
Well, I'm glad I've helped. I've helped do something with that. But yeah, so well, thank you very much, Malcolm, for taking part in this review, and obviously have a very good Christmas and a happy New Year.
Thank you, and the same to you. And
thank you.
And look forward to seeing you online, wherever.
Yeah.
in due course.
Will you be settling down with some cheese and wine over Christmas?
Why cheese? Well, if my toothache has cleared up properly,
Yes.
then I won't need to take painkillers.
Um,
I've got an appointment again for root canal in the new year. But if I'm off all the painkillers and everything, then I can take the wine. Otherwise, I'll avoid it. I'm not a big, I like cheese. I'm not a big cheese person. I shall settle for a salad cream sandwich. That's my thing.
I had to. There was one Christmas, I think 2 years ago, just before this, where I had. No, it's 2 years ago. It was not. I had a recurrence of cellulitis. I've only had it before in 2016.
Right.
And obviously, cellulitis is very easily treatable.
Oh, good.
But if you don't catch it quickly, you can end up very seriously ill.
Right. Oh.
So if you find it quickly, easy, dealt with, same like anything else. But if it's not diagnosed quickly, or if you're slow in going to the doctors, and I'd say to anyone who's got cellulitis, go and you have any suspicion you have it.
Right.
Because you feel feverish and you've got a swollen, inflamed leg. Go straight to the doctors, because it will turn into septicemia at its very worst, etc., etc. So, but it meant when I was recovering from this, I had to take obviously a whole load of antibiotics, but that also meant I couldn't be taking any alcohol.
Yeah.
Because of that, so I spent a Christmas holiday.
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I was still taking painkillers or whatnot, you know, a few years ago I got run over on Christmas Eve, so it's still better than that.
Oh dear.
It was okay in the end. I went off to A&E and went back home the same night. Missed midnight mass, and they sent me home with a little leaflet that folded out that told me of symptoms of having damaged my head, like bleeding from the ear or from the nose, and And I spent, he said, if any of these things happen, your personality changes, go straight to A&E, because it could mean brain damage, which can obviously be fatal. So I spent the next 2 weeks worrying about, I've got a headache. Is this brain damage? Or is it just a headache?
Almost like
that was no fun.
Yeah, it's almost like today. It's like I've got a cold. Have I got COVID?
Well, yeah, the minute a cold or a cough appears, oh dear, I'm not surprised. So it's two interesting times.
Yeah. Well, on that cheerful note.
Well, let's just end on a more cheerful one. It's going to be good.
It's going to be good, and it's happy.
Jesus is born.
Yes, brilliant. And thank you. We've only had comments from Rosie M, who's been giving supportive comments, but
thank you to her.
Otherwise, yeah. So otherwise, no one's said anything really, but people tend to watch these things after the event, I find.
Right.
But
well, I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
And happy Christmas and New Year to anyone who watches this. And if they're watching it next summer, that applies to next Christmas and New Year.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All the best.
Cheerio.
Cheers. Happy New Year. Bye.